All right, welcome to Weirdos Like Me. I am your chief weirdo, Dr. Shannon. Today, we're going to be talking about the 5 love languages and how they can be used to improve relationships in adults, children, and even amongst relationships in the workplace. You guys have heard me talk about the 5 love languages before on previous podcasts, but today we're going to dive into all the details and we're going to go over each one individually and some examples about how you can utilize that in your life. Now, the 5 love languages is a theory developed by Dr. Gary Chapman, who suggests that there are 5 primary ways that people express and receive love. So the first way is physical touch. This includes holding hands, hugs, kisses, anything that's a physical form of affection. And then there's acts of service, which can be doing things for your loved one, things that they would appreciate. So things like running errands, cooking dinner, cleaning the house, those would classify under acts of service. The other category is receiving gifts. And it doesn't have to be like Christmas, holiday, expensive gifts, right? This could be just receiving anything like a handwritten note, getting flowers, even bringing somebody something like coffee or tea from their favorite coffee shop would count as receiving gifts. Then there are words of affirmation, which is telling your loved one how much you care through words, verbally, and words written. Either one counts for this. And then last but not least is quality time, which is spending actual time with your loved one. And the important thing for this one is that it's undivided attention during that time. So it's not spending quality time being on your phone, kind of like half listening to what they're saying. It's putting your phone away and having undivided attention time together. Now, his theory suggests that everybody has a primary love language, and the best way to express your love to somebody in a way that they can receive it is to speak to them in their primary love language. You're also going to have a secondary, right? So some people might be super, super dominant in one, but most people are kind of a mix of, 2 or 3, but you're always going to have one that is kind of your primary go-to. Now, these love languages can be used in adult relationships, and they can be used in parent-child parenting relationships. So for adults in an intimate relationship, it's important to identify first your love language and then identify your partner's love language. And honestly, this works better if you both are on board with this, right? I mean, you could do like one person knows it and the other doesn't, but honestly, get both of you on board. Now, once you know each other's love languages, you can then start to speak each other's languages more often. And then the things that you're doing actually are received and appreciated, and vice versa. You're going to feel like what you're getting, you're actually receiving love, and then you're going to feel appreciative of your partner as well if you're speaking each other's language. Now, when it comes to kids and parenting, it's the same thing. If your child has a primary love language, if you utilize strategies for communicating in that way, they're going to feel more loved and appreciated more often. And it's going to help them develop healthy self-esteem. It's going to help them develop self-worth. It's going to help them regulate their emotions in a more healthy way. And this honestly falls under the realm of conscious parenting, because you're helping them learn about emotional regulation and how to give and receive love in certain healthy ways. So in a relationship, there are a couple of things that you can do to help utilize love languages in the most effective way. Okay. So first and foremost, you got to be creative and thoughtful in your expressions of love. So even if your love language is different than your partner's, it's important for you to be open to learning about their love language and then trying to speak it to them. Now, are you always going to be good at it? Probably not. Like if your primary love language is, physical touch, and your partner's is acts of service, just because you hug them every 4 minutes doesn't mean that they are going to feel loved and appreciated when the trash is overflowing and the dishes are still in the sink from yesterday and the laundry hasn't been folded from last week. That actually might get annoying, and they'll be like, well, why do you keep trying to hug me? Like, I'm trying to get this stuff done. Whereas if you as the partner decide to go ahead and do the load of laundry or put the dishes away, all of a sudden your partner's gonna have like a weight lifted off of their chest. And now they might be more willing to engage in your love language, and they'd be more receptive to the every 4-minute hugs. Although that might be a little excessive. You guys know what I mean. Now, you have to be consistent in your expressions of love. So if you know your partner's love language, don't just do it every once in a while. You have to do it consistently so that they know that you actually care, right? I mean, I'm not saying everyone's perfect at this, but don't just do it, on holidays. Like, don't just express their love language on Valentine's Day or on Mother's Day or on Father's Day or whatever it is. Do little things on a consistent, regular basis. And that's really how you're going to make your partner feel understood and appreciate it. And last but not least, make sure you're patient and understanding. The 5 love languages are called a language for a reason. It takes time to learn how to speak someone else's love language. So if you don't get it right at first, don't be discouraged. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Just keep trying and be patient with yourself and be patient with your partner if they're starting this too, right? I mean, there's some funny stories that can come out of this, like if you're attempting to try to get somebody's love language right. So just be appreciative that they're trying. Some of the challenges associated with love languages is a little bit of what we just talked about before. So not everybody has the same love language because because of this, I should say, you might not be able to express your love in a way that your partner needs to feel love. So if your love language is words of affirmation and your partner's is physical touch, you might be able to speak these words of affirmation a lot to your partner and feel like you're giving love, but your partner doesn't receive love from those words. They're nice, right? Like, I'm not saying you should speak meanly to your partner, but you have to also insert even just a touch on the shoulder or a hug every so often. And that's how your partner's going to actually feel like they're loved. It's difficult to try to change your love language. So, and by a change, I don't mean you have to change yourself. I mean, try to adapt to somebody else's. So that's a huge challenge at first. But this is why a lot of times people feel like they're doing all of these things in a relationship, whether it's like a spousal relationship or a parent-child relationship. And they're like, I do all of these things. How can this person say that they don't feel appreciated or that they don't feel loved? And well, maybe your love language is act of service. So you're doing things, but your partner or your child's love language is receiving gifts, and they don't really ever get any tangible things. And like I said, doesn't have to be expensive gifts. These can be little handwritten notes or flowers that you pick from the garden or whatever it is. This could mean more to them rather than doing those things, right? And here's something that's so important to keep in mind when you're learning about the 5 love languages. They are not the cure for every relationship ailment. They can be a helpful tool for understanding how people express and receive love and appreciation, but they're not the cure-all for relationship problems. So, don't put all your eggs in one basket thinking that this is the end-all be-all for all relationships. It's a huge tool, but there's a lot more to it. And here's another challenge for adults, love language relationships. Some people may use them to manipulate or control their partners. So they might only engage with their partner's love language when they want something from them. And side note, a lot of narcissists are freaking amazing at manipulating love languages to work in their favor. Just saying. So be aware of that too, okay? Now, when it comes to parents and children utilizing love languages, these are very, very specific situations that can come up. Honestly, now that I think about it, this can come up in adults too. So maybe it's not just for kids, but whatever, we'll see as I go through. Children's love languages can change over time, as can adults. Mine personally has changed over the years. When I first took the quiz, which I'll tell you about at the end, about your love languages, I was very, very high acts of service, and physical touch was literally like my lowest one. I mean, like significantly, dramatically low. And when I've taken it more recently, acts of service is still my highest, but ironically enough, physical touch has moved up in the categories. So just because you or your child or your partner has a specific love language, primary or secondary now, doesn't mean that years from now that's not going to change. So I think it's really important to reassess that over time to make sure that you're not trying to engage in an antiquated love language that no longer means the same for you, your partner, or your child. This one is more specific for kids. So kids might not be able to articulate their love language through words. Actually, this is for adults too. Oy, I'm like having these epiphanies as I'm actually filming this too. So we'll just keep it to kids right now. But kids may not be able to say the words to describe their love language, right? So this makes it difficult as a parent to know how to express your love in a way to them if you don't really know what it is. So probably the best way with kids to figure out their primary love language is by just try them all out and see how they respond to each one individually. And if your kid's a little older and you can actually engage in a conversation, you can literally just ask them, hey, what makes you feel appreciated? What do you like? What specific things do you like me doing? Do you like receiving notes? Do you like me telling you that you did great on this? Do you like it when I hug you? Just ask them and see what they say. And, you might be surprised at some of the answers you get out of them. Sorry, now I'm going on another squirrel tangent here. Like I'm thinking about that in terms of adults, and it's the same thing. Well, let me go off again here. You have a primary and a secondary love language, but it doesn't mean you don't appreciate getting occasional things from the other categories, if that makes sense. So just because this is so-and-so's primary doesn't mean you should just throw all the rest of them away and only do that one thing. You should still have a variety of things that you do to express love and appreciation, but which ones are going to pack the biggest punch, if that makes sense, and which ones are going to be most well received if you know what someone's primary is. Okay, so now for kids, here's another one. If you're not comfortable with a particular love language and you try to fake it, kids are very, very receptive. They will pick up on that, and then they're not going to actually receive that as love, even if you are trying your absolute hardest to. So if your kid's primary love language is physical touch and you're super uncomfortable with it, if you kind of fake hug them, they're going to know, right? They might not say it to you, but they're going to feel that it's not genuine. So in a category like that, you might be better off doing something that you are genuinely showing so that your child picks up that genuine energy and it's not something that they feel like you're faking. Now, here's a question I get asked all the time, and anybody who's looking into the 5 love languages tends to ask, do these only apply to, intimate relationships or to parent-child relationships? And the answer is absolutely not. They can apply to relationships in the workplace, to your friends, to your family, basically anybody that you're interacting with on a regular basis. So for example, Physical touch doesn't have to be a hug or a kiss. It could be a handshake. It could be a pat on the back. This is a way in the workplace that you can help others feel supported if they are okay with that, right? Like, you don't want to just go up like slapping people at work. Don't get yourself written up by HR, like do this intelligently. But a handshake or something like that, a high five could be counted as physical touch as well. Acts of service, in a work type of setting, this could be assisting one of your colleagues with a big project that they have. Like if they're feeling stressed out and overworked and overloaded, you could help them take some of that off their plate, or bring them coffee, or bring them lunch one day or something like that. It's these doing things, help them tidy up their office, whatever it is. It's doing something for them that's going to take a burden off of their workload. For receiving gifts, you could leave little notes, right? That technically counts as a gift. It could be, you could give little gift cards for coffee, or you could bring coffee, like whatever their favorite coffee is, or tea, or bubble tea, or whatever it is. Just these little things count as receiving gifts or giving gifts to your coworkers. For quality time, in a work setting, this could be, taking a break and going on a walk with them, or going to lunch with them and spending time talking one-on-one over lunch. That counts as quality time there too. And then last but not least, there's words of affirmation. And this is both verbally or verbally or in written form, telling somebody how much you care, how great they're doing, how much you appreciate them. Write a thank you note, leave a little sticky note that says that you appreciate what they're doing. That can mean a lot to a lot of people too, especially if words of affirmation is their primary love language. So these 5 love languages can be super helpful for understanding how people express and receive love, whether it's adult intimate relationships, parent-kid relationships, workplace, friends, you name it. This is just human interaction. So knowing what to do with it is really, really helpful. Now, there is a book on this, right? So this is where this information came from, is from the book. So if you want to dive in even deeper, then check out the 5 Love Languages book by Gary Chapman. You can find it on Amazon. I have the link under my book recommendations on my Amazon storefront, so it's super easy to find. And if you want something just really quick and free that you can do to even just to test to see where you're at, there's a free quiz on the 5 Love Languages website that'll get you started. So you can do that. You can have your partner do it. Everybody in your workplace can do it. That's really fun to do. We've done that before at work, and it just helped us know how to interact with each other in the most effective way. All right, guys, thanks for listening to this episode of Weirdos Like Me. If you're not already in the Weirdos Like Me Facebook group, what the heck are you waiting on? All right, just kidding, but not really. Go ahead and join the group so we can continue the conversation. And Weirdos Like Me is also on TikTok, so find us there because I love interacting with the listeners on TikTok. And if you enjoyed this episode, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any future episodes. I also super appreciate ratings and reviews, and all of your guys' support helps me keep creating free content for you. So for now, that's it for today's episode. I am Dr. Shannon. What? Can you say my name right? I'm Dr. Shannon signing off, and I'll see you on the next episode of Weirdos Like Me.